Good day. Thank you for joining us for part 2 of our exciting interview with Dr. Lewis Brooks. Continuing talking about what you're doing now, can you tell us, what does a typical day look like for you?
It varies. From time to time, I'm out in schools visiting with students, teachers. Some days I start in the office. I work through signing documents and getting information out,
Right.
and I have a series of meetings from time to time. So it's always something new and interesting. So there's no really specific pattern of
Right.
things. I have a schedule, but again, I try to do different things throughout the week, keep things fresh.
Right.
But particularly, I think it's important for me now, being new in this position, to visit schools, visit classrooms. One of the things I'm working on currently is, and I talked about this a lot early on, was a process of advisory. As we restructure our strategic plan for the district, I think it's important for me to have dialogue with key stakeholders.
Okay.
So we're working on now an initiative that I call VOICE. It's an acronym for Vision, Openness, Insight, Communication, and
Nice.
Engagement. And so what we want to do with this is we want to create advisory teams at every school or in every school community, where we talk to student groups about what's important in education, what are some of the things that we need to improve, what are some things that we need to throw away.
Right.
And we want to have some meaningful dialogue about that. We also want to do that with teachers. We even want to do it with parents. So
Yes, sir.
we're working on that. We realize that's going to take some time, but it's something that's important. And I believe that everyone deserves voice in this process, if
Yes,
that
sir.
makes sense. So,
For sure.
yeah. So my day is a little bit all over the place.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
That's
Started today talking to the sheriff this morning.
exciting.
So,
That'll do it.
yeah,
That'll do it.
yeah. So, yeah. So it's different and interesting every day.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It truly sounds like that, and I know before we began the interview, you were kind of talking a little bit about what influence means to you, and it really sounds like those relationships truly are essential to just the overall flow of our school system.
They are. They're critical. I don't think that you can get things done without a relationship, without a conversation. Sometimes those conversations are hard.
Right.
Sometimes we feel strongly about certain things, and sometimes we don't. It's difficult for us to see the perspective of others, but I think we have to have those conversations. I think that they help us clear up misunderstandings.
For sure.
I think they help us learn things about ourselves and about others, but more importantly, I think relationships in those conversations, help us be better. Just better as teachers, students, and
Mm-hmm.
and not to be nostalgic, but really just better for humanity,
Yes, sir.
for what the world will be. So,
Right.
yeah,
It goes back to, it's all about us. It's not just one person. It's everybody.
for sure, for sure. And I think, I probably, and I do, I wake up every day feeling like there's something that I can do to change the world. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Probably seems really pie in the sky,
Oh,
but
no.
I believe that I can do something every day to make the world a better place, and I just believe that's important. I, and I part of the reason that I believe it's important because I've had people do those things to me. They've made my world a better place, and so I feel like again it's a responsibility to do that.
That is
Yeah.
truly amazing. I love that.
Yeah, it's a responsibility, a great challenge, but important. So,
And that's definitely the same culture that we're building here in
yeah,
Shelby County.
yeah,
I can attest to that for sure.
yeah. Well, I appreciate that. We're excited about what's ahead of us.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah.
Can you kind of tell us what do you do when you're not running the schools? Like,
Um, I don't know that I'm ever not running the schools, um, but there are things that I enjoy. I am I am a collector of vinyl.
okay.
Yeah, so I spend my time probably in record shops. I was in one this past weekend in Atlanta, and so I collect vinyl. I have a record player, and I
Wow.
kind of I'm a lover of music. Probably one of my greatest regrets was that when I was in sixth grade, my parents bought me a saxophone, and I was going to be in the band, and then I started playing sports, and I just put it down. But I regret that because I could have done both.
Right.
Because I am such a lover of music, and so yeah, I'm a guy who has really eclectic taste in my music. So
Yes, sir.
yeah,
I'm totally with you on that,
yeah,
man.
yeah, it's fun. I really love um, 50s, 60s, 70s jazz. Um, there are particular artists that I like, and I study,
Right.
their history. But I also like 60s, I mean, 70s, 80s rock, big haired bands. And, but also, too, I have like some hip hop artists that I like as well
Okay.
that are really different,
Yes, sir.
like the Roots band, which is Jimmy Fallon's
Yep.
band. It's one of
Yep.
my favorite bands. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Do you have like a favorite collector's vinyl? Is there one that's just like your favorite overall, or?
I do. I tell you, probably my most precious vinyl is probably a unique piece. It's a collection of Dr. Martin Luther King's speeches.
Really?
Yeah. So sometimes I will pull that out and just listen to some of the words that he spoke, and it's pretty inspirational.
Yes,
So,
sir.
yeah.
That's
But
amazing.
yeah. So I do that in my spare time. Um, I used to play basketball a lot, but my knees are not allowing me to do that as much anymore. So, in my old age, but
Yes, sir.
so yeah, and I enjoy sports and music, and um, I think those are the things that are the most fulfilling.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I was actually going to ask you earlier, what was it like playing college basketball?
Um, it was fun and hard. um,
I can imagine.
yeah, it was. I had a lot of great teammates. I ended up meeting a lot of great people, um, but it was a challenge. Um, I had a coach that pushed us, which I think is important. I think it was taught us some things about work ethic, but it was fun and hard. It's interesting you asked that question because my youngest son was home recently and he found some stuff from when I played,
Did he?
and actually he found a program from the very last game, and he said, "Dad, what was it like when you played your last game?" And I said, "It was a relief." um, I enjoyed every moment of it, but it was it was tough.
Yes, sir.
But again, I wouldn't change any of it. I
Right.
wouldn't change any of it. So, yeah.
And speaking of your son, is that right? You have two sons?
I do. I have two sons. I have one that graduated from the University of North Alabama. He
Okay.
works at Calera Intermediate School. He works with special needs kids. He has a teacher's heart. It's just kind of taking him a little time to figure that out. Um, he's always had it, but he just kind of resisted because of his parents being educators. But,
Right.
and then my youngest son went to Alabama, and he works in Nashville, and so
Okay.
and I will never get him to come back home because he loves Nashville. Yeah, so he works for PepsiCo,
Nice.
which is Pepsi and Frito-Lay, so
Yeah.
that company. So he's enjoying his life in Nashville.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. So
All right. And going back to your career, what would you kind of say has been the highlight of your 28 years of experience? I know it's kind of a tough question. But.
yeah, um, probably the highlight of my career is I guess seeing the successes of people that I've encountered, that I've worked with, and kids that I've spent time with. Um, those are some of the, I guess, the most meaningful things to me.
Right.
I mentioned earlier, I'm going to see a kid that is, married now, young, coach. I mean, that relationship is just meaningful. Sat with kids that I taught last night at a basketball game, and just seeing how they've raised their children and what's important to them.
Right.
That's, I would say those are the things that are the most meaningful. Um, the relationships.
Mm-hmm.
There's, I try not to, I'm not a guy that ever thinks about things like legacy and all of that. I think that's for other people to determine. I'm, I think what will be important is what you've done for people.
Right.
And I guess when I think about my time in education, those are the most meaningful experiences to me. So I don't. It's hard to pinpoint one.
Right.
I just, walked by a classroom and waved at a kid, Casey. He's one of my little buddies. I mean,
Yeah.
I love spending time with him. So, that's what's important to me. And
Yes, sir.
when my time is over in education, I hope that I will be judged by what I've done for people and how I've treated people versus this particular role.
Yes, sir.
And again, the superintendency is important. I think being a leader is important. But I think more importantly, what's important, the relationships that you have with people and what you've been able to do to help someone along the way.
Right.
Yeah.
I love your pure focus on relationships. It's very unique.
Well, it's I could probably speak all day about the number of people that have just influenced me, my life and in my career, and I've learned something from all of them. It's amazing. I'll give you an example. One of my professors in college, when I decided that, hey, I'm interested in a career, she said, hey, we're gonna take a trip, and I'm gonna drive you, and we're gonna go talk to somebody about that career. Now, as a college professor, she didn't have to do that,
Right.
but she did that because we had a conversation. And what's amazing is this is a person that I still talk to, and so she took the time to take a special interest in me as an individual. And again, I just think that that's what teaching is about, finding those opportunities to take a special interest.
Right.
And I think that you can do that from whatever position you're in. And again, even being in this position, I want to make sure that that's important.
Yes, sir.
My relationship with you. I mean, I want
Right.
that to be important with others that I've met.
Sure.
So
Yes, sir. And
yeah,
I love that.
yeah.
To kind of wrap up, do you have what's your best advice for outgoing seniors?
My best advice is, I think, whatever you dream that you want to do, pursue it. And I say pursue it with boldness, enthusiasm, um, and that may change, and that's okay.
Right.
But whatever you choose to do, go for it with boldness and enthusiasm, because you can't be reluctant to pursue what makes you happy. You've got to go after it. And so
Right.
my best advice is to do that with all of the energy that is in your heart and the enthusiasm that is in your heart to go for it. And I would say also make sure that along the way you revisit the people that have invested in you and let them know how important they've been, whether it's mom and dad, grandmother, teacher. It's important that they know that.
Yes, sir.
Sometimes I worry that we can get so self-centered that we don't realize that we didn't get there by I didn't. It's like for me, I didn't get here by myself.
Yes, sir.
So I want to make sure that I remind myself to thank people along the way. So
Yes, sir. And speaking of thanking people, I want to thank you. Well, first, thank you for coming in. But you always talk about like building those relationships and how important influence is to you. And it's very, very clear. I mean, you truly stay active in every school, and I know all of us here at Oak Mountain can attest to that. I mean, you're on the sidelines. I mean, you truly are. You don't just lead from from the board. You lead right alongside us, and that is truly doesn't go unnoticed.
well, I appreciate that. It's important. So thank you all for having me today. I've enjoyed visiting. So, and I love the set. Love what you guys have done here. So
Thank you, thank you.
yeah,
Thank you so much for coming in, Dr. Brooks.
thank you for having me.
Sir. And thank you for tuning in. Please be sure to keep up with Dr. Brooks on his personal Twitter, and he kind of keeps up with all things Shelby County. So if you want to stay up with that, his Twitter handle is Dr. Brooks LEW, and also keep up with our Twitter at OakMTN Media. And for Oak Mountain Media, I'm Ryan Paul.